Welcome back to our COP30 mini series. We are joined by Archana Chaudhary for a quick look at what's unfolding on the ground at COP in Belém. Week 1 in Belém is done, and the talks have already revealed where the real battles lie, which is finance, equity, and the global south's growing voice. So let's get into what's shaping week 2.
Hi, Manjari.
Hi, Archana. What's the big picture coming out of week 1? How would you describe the mood and the momentum as the COP enters its second week?
Yes, so week one at COP30 it felt more like a crossroads, like we discussed earlier. There seems to be an urgency in the room. There was Lula's call for this COP to be a COP of truth. But that urgency with which the COP started is yet to translate into some sort of a outcome. And from what we are seeing and hearing, that the mood is right now cautious, maybe even tense, because we've seen the indigenous voices stepping up, asking for action. We saw them storming the COP 30, COP 30 venue, and so we know that there is a lot of expectation. There is a lot of eyes on this COP, and honestly, there is a lot more honesty this year because it's crystal clear that finance and justice are the things that will need to be ensured. But so far, since the progress has been uneven, and the negotiators are still feeling the pressure to move beyond the symbolic commitments that COPs have come to be known for, it's time for actual delivery, especially on finance and on just transition. So that's where we are at.
We also saw strong signals from global south blocs like the G77 plus China, the AOSIS, and African group. It's been quite interesting, and I think everybody would love to know how aligned does the global south look right now, and have there been any unexpected alignments?
In the week one, we did see a lot of an alignment between G77 and China, pushing for the Belém action mechanism on just transition. The basic countries were pushing back uh, on CBAM. So unilateral trade measures were discussed on Saturday for the first time. Although unfortunately the EU decided to step away and not join these conversations, which is disappointing considering their own calls for justice, and this was a good chance to show leadership. There's also uh, a lot of convergence in the G77 China basic, all these groupings, the global south groupings on justice. There is some difference in tactics as always between the high emitters, the more vulnerable countries, but the core message seems to be that this push for climate ambition, for saying that money matters, real finance, real equity, real policy space, that seems to be holding up.
Speaking of finance, so what's your sense of where the finance battle is heading?
The finance conversations are a battleground, no doubt. They have been for the last 3 or 4 COPs, especially. Although, to be honest, I the this finance has been the elephant in the room since before the Paris Agreement, because naturally, if we are going to rebuild our house, which is this planet, then we are going to need resources, and the first resource is money. And so, in some ways, this COP, it feels more like there is a test of credibility of the leaders who are going to be here. And whether it's adaptation, whether it is loss and damage, just transition, everything is coming back to that predictable argument about whether funding is going to be more grounds based, whether the global north countries will step up and uh, agree to the commitments that they have already made, and the developed countries have unfortunately been continuing to resist strong language which implies any kind of obligation, while the developing countries have been insisting that finance is a precondition for delivery. So the fight is not just over numbers, it's over actual responsibility and the very architecture in which this decision is being made. So whether it's a GSF, GCF country platform, or whether it is calls for mechanisms like the Bellum Action mechanism, there seems to be this, uh, not being able to still see eye to eye on the very basic things that matter on when it comes to finance and money. It's going to remain tense, yes, from the looks of it.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate, but hope the clouds clear in the coming days. Before I move on to what to look forward to, it'd be nice to hear what has stood out so far in the interventions that India has made. India has been quite vocal in the past week and has been the voice for LMDCs as well. So, what has stood out in your eyes in terms of India's interventions?
I think when it comes to India's messaging, it's been consistent, and Article 9.1 must be respected, or they've been talking about how finance is an obligation, it's not charity. India's also been making a strong showing by talking on behalf of the LMDCs. We saw Indian officials speak up more, reinforcing India's role as a key voice for developing countries. And it's also been very noticeable how India has tied finance, adaptation, and trade into one narrative of equity capability. It's been very interesting to watch how India has been showing this kind of a clear leadership and has been actually driving some of these conversations. So we will be looking forward to how India, what India says in the coming week. Now that Environment Minister Bhupinder Yadav is also on the ground, so there will be a lot of expectations. There will naturally also be pressure to submit NDCs, which India is yet to do. But India has made it very clear that ambitions for NDCs really depend on seeing what is going to be made available in terms of support to be able to deliver on NDCs, not just for India but for all developing countries. So it's going to be something that will be watched in the coming week, Manjari.
Understood. I hope that lands as well in the coming plenaries as ministers gather. I have one last question, and that's kind of two part. One is going forward, like what should we watch most closely? What is expected versus what would a successful COP at this point can look like? If things were to go in best way possible, what would you think can be a good outcome?
That's a very good and a very difficult question. But I mean, the first part is easy. Yes, week two kicks in, ministers are arriving, our own minister has reached. We know that they will have to resolve this gridlock on finance, and we'll have to watch for how the presidency handles the stocktake process, whether it is the Article 9.1 language and what makes into the final text, how what happens with the Bellum action mechanism. It's also will what will be important is to see how carbon markets or Article 6.4 are handled, because there are signs of rollbacks on safeguards which could become contentious. So this week will be a kind of test of credibility for the leaders at COP. On the second part, I mean, if everything really went ideally and swimmingly well, then the best case I think would be some sort of a credible action plan, maybe the Bellum action mechanism on just transition. Maybe they're able to secure stronger language on finance obligations under 9.1. At least move forward with an ambitious adaptation finance goal. It would be great if we see transparency and real inclusion for all the indigenous folk who are protesting outside, and civil society gets their concerns addressed. But most importantly, I think uh, we need to see also a rejection of watering down of rules like carbon market, carbon market rules, or uh, best case scenario would be a signal towards phasing out fossil fuels, or at least phasing down fossil fuels in a more planned manner. That would probably make COP30 more than just a talking shop. And hopefully, we'll have some sort of a reset in the climate movement. That is the hope.
Yes,
To
that
fish
is
with
the
the
hope.
horses, yes.
Yes. Thanks so much, as always, Archana, for your insights. And yes, and translating that so more and more people can more closely understand and follow what's happening many, many thousand miles away, but have quite direct implications on, life as we know.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Manjali.
So that's the week one wrap. We will be back with more as ministers arrive and settle in and the negotiations tighten. So please do stay tuned to our podcast for the next dispatch from COP30.